Hello and welcome to a special weekend edition of the Big Picture on elections. As the country goes to polls, we at the Rajya Sabha TV have been looking at various major issues confronting the nation and discussing it in the context of what kind of challenges and issues the next government will face over the last 2 weeks. Today we will look at the problem of the Maoist insurgency. The Maoist problem in the country has been dubbed by the Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh as the single biggest internal security challenge ever faced by the country. The magnitude of this problem could not have been emphasized further. Affecting over 60 districts in the country spread over 8 states, the Maoists have been challenging the Indian government. In some parts of their stronghold, the government just does not exist. Dozens of ambushes and attacks have taken place, killing hundreds of people every year, including the Maoist cadres. Despite much debate on the problem, governments have not been able to find a solution to it. While on the one hand, the government machinery would like to treat it as a law and order problem, another equally strong section feels that it has to be viewed in the overall context of development and as a socio-economic issue. Now with the new government going to be in place in a month and a half, how should it approach this problem? Can there be a consensus among political parties in tackling this problem? We will discuss all this today over the next 1 hour with Nilotpal Basu, Central Committee member, CPIM, Harsh Mander, social activist and a former member of the National Advisory Committee, Professor Apoorvanand of the Delhi University, Ajit Sahi, editor Tehelka magazine, and Pranab, Congress spokesperson. Welcome to all of you. I think before we start the discussion, let's have a look at the package. If my colleague Amritanshu Rai, who has travelled in Jharkhand and Bihar, has come out with this story. Let's have a look at it first.
Poorer sections of this 631-kilometer-long India-Nepal international border under forested area of the Valmiki Tiger Reserve are a rising national security threat. Till a decade back, the area used to be a hiding, recuperating and training ground for Naxals operating in India, with plans to link it to the Red Corridor leading into Nepal.
I am standing next to pillar number 394 on the India-Nepal border. I am on the no man's land. It doesn't make a difference whether I am in India or in Nepal, because it's an open border, a friendly border. Behind me, as you can see, is Nepal, and I am standing very close to the integrated checkpost site. The area is densely populated and very porous and difficult to manage.
Monitoring of the area by Indian security forces began in 2001. Naxal training camps and safe houses were removed, but the threat is ever prevalent, demanding a constant and close watch, with the Sheshadri Seema Bal warning of a bigger game plan by China.
They are trying to influence the border population on the other side by coming out with China study centers, by trying to teach them Chinese language. Now, whether it is being done for some helping purposes to the Nepal police or not, but we have taken this development on our borders with a pinch of salt.
Bordering districts of Bihar are the most immediately affected. The Naxals generate funds here by terrorizing locals and demanding levies. Reports say 25 lakh rupees are raised here every year for bigger activities within India. The issue is a huge concern for Indian security agencies, with any solution encompassing local policing, terror activity, international relations and more. Amritanshu Rai, Rajya Sabha TV.
Okay, Harsh, do you think that the problem of the Maoist insurgency in this country has been understood by people in authority in all its dimensions so far?
I think the most important thing to remember is that we can't be fighting a war, a bloody war with our own people, especially our most impoverished, oppressed people in this country. And I think that firstly, it just cannot be seen as a law and order problem. The second is that I think that it's really important that a battle needs to be fought respecting the morale of the soldiers as well who are on the ground, but also insisting on a regime of human rights, because I think that you cannot fight any war, especially a war within your country, without a respect for human rights. And lastly, the complete breakdown of the development machinery reflects an abdication and a vacuum that, however hard the circumstances, I've travelled in some of the Maoist affected areas, and it's incredible that there's no ration shop, there's no school, there's no teacher, there's no Anganwadi. I mean, any marker of government is missing, and that is a situation that is intolerable. That I think it is all of these elements that need to be borne in mind while developing a strategy for response.
Nilotpal, you think that a strategy has been developed so far, which is a harmonious strategy between the center and states? Do you think this strategy has worked at all so far? How do you look at this?
More than strategy, you see, as the question you pose, the issue has not been understood at all by the Indian establishment. First of all, it may or may not have some marginal external dimension, I think, but it is a largely homegrown phenomena. And I think there are several aspects why this has emerged. First of all, this is got a socio-economic dimension, as you were pointing out, that you see these are in remote areas which are rich with natural resources, and the manner in which we have gone about in exploiting those natural resources, the benefits does not seem to be flowing to the people at large, especially the marginalized communities. Number two is the political dimension. Now, unless you create an atmosphere whereby people have a sense of belonging in the manner in which they are governed and they have a say in how you govern them, there will be alienation. And finally, there is also an ideological dimension. I mean, particularly Maoists, they think that they are fighting this battle to wage a war against the Indian state. Now, in this war, what is unfortunate is what the Maoists also don't understand, that if they have to win the battle, they have to have the people on their sides, masses, as they say.
And you don't think, and
I think that is not there. But what is happening, that because of the alienation of the people from the Indian state, the entire confrontation assumes a military dimension, and where the people are the victims of this crossfire between the Maoists on the one hand and the state on the other.
Right.
So neither the Maoists nor the state has the people in the center of their attention, and as a process or as a interface to really address the challenge.
Okay. We are now joined in by Sheshadri Chari, the BJP leader. Welcome, Mr. Sheshadri. Let me come to you. Nilotpal says, and before that Harsh Mander also. See, the problem, the dimension, the entire dimension of this problem, has it been understood by the Indian state so far, or the Indian political parties, the people in authority? How do you think this has been understood, or do you think that Nilotpal feels that it has actually not been properly understood at all?
No, I would rather put it this way. The state has not completely understood the magnitude of the problem. But there are reasons for this. The state's policy so far has been more or less reactive.
When you are saying state, are you, it's regardless of parties which have been in power?
Yes, regardless of parties, I put both the center and the state governments.
Right.
Because this is not a problem that is peculiar to the state, central government as much as it is to the state government. And you know, the biggest problem here for the state also is state has not devised proper mechanisms to gather inputs and understand the issue. Except for probably the IDSA, not many state organizations, the central government run organizations, let us put it that way, are really seriously working into this, number one. Number two, we have, I think by stating that this is a socio-economic problem, the problem of alienation, lack of justice, all these things may be causatory, but we have also tend to oversimplify the whole issue. This oversimplification is very dangerous. We should remember that.
Why do you say we have
the oversimplification is because, see, the state does not have a dynamic policy, and because it doesn't have a dynamic policy, what has happened is we have understood the Maoist Naxal problem in parts. So, but they have a steady plan, the plan of split, the plan of coming together, the mergers, the composite dialogue process, and then a multi-pronged attack.
So you think that they have been smarter than the state?
Absolutely.
They have been smarter than the state.
Absolutely.
Pranab, you know, your party has been in government for the last 10 years. There has been a talk about, you know, we hear different kinds of voices within your own government actually. Is that the problem in creating a harmonious solution or harmonious strategy to fight this problem?
Nilotpal, you rightly said, it's like as many people, as many perspective, and it is important also. But let me speak here as I speak today for myself, and as one who comes from an area which is affected by left-wing extremism. I think it's, although he just said that oversimplification of the issue, but I just see it, what requires is actually two-pronged strategy. First thing is, you'll have to address, you'll have to compete with the Naxals, if you call them Naxals or left-wing extremists. You'll have to compete.
Maoists, whatever.
Yeah, you'll have to compete in doing what they are doing for the people to whom they are addressing, their constituency. And the other thing is that you will have to intervene when there is an obstruction from them, obstruction in the form of violence or anything, if they are trying to stop you, that is when then you need to put in security or whatever measures so that you can continue with your welfare.
So you think that it is now more or less it's being tackled as a law and order problem more than when you say compete with them, you're talking of development, you're talking of
yes.
I presume.
For example, the recent one in West Singhbhum in Surrender Action Plan, this was declared an independent zone. It was liberated zone. It was declared, and why? Because of it has very rich iron ore mines, and SAIL has mines there. What the government proposed is that let's flush out those who are there, who collect levies there. Let's flush them out and then take over the area. And by way of issues like developmental issues, you give them infrastructure, you give them hospitals, you give them dispensaries, give them school, lights, water, and
all on paper.
No, it's actually working. It's 100. Yes, 15,000 people have been. Their lives have turned around.
As which area are you talking?
This is Saranda Development Plan. This is very popular now. People talk about it, and it is working successfully. But that tussle is still there. It's unseen. You see, there are people waiting at the doorstep. That the moment government weakens its stand or presence, they'll come and take over because it's profitable for them. And the first thing that the state needs to, we all need to, especially people who live in the cities and who have a perspective from a distance, is that the people who have taken guns, they are not most of the time are actually people with a cause. They are pecuniary people, they are mercenaries, they are working for finances.
Apoorvanand, he's saying that there are mercenaries also. I mean, I'm sure you will also agree that there are a part of them have turned mercenaries. But the larger problem, how do you think it is being tackled?
I think largely it's being seen as a law and order problem.
Yes.
As Sheshadri said, that the coordination between state and central government, these are the things we generally talk about. But let me tell you how I see it, or how we have been talking about it. As a person who comes from left tradition and has worked closely with people who now form part of this Maoist or Naxal political formation or movement, I know that I agree with Sheshadri Chari that we do indulge in oversimplification.
Yeah.
And when we say that there is a smart plan of split and unity and other things, it's again oversimplification. It's not understanding how left works or how politics works in these ideological parties. Maoists have been splitting, and let me tell you about my recent encounter with a very small faction from Tamil Nadu. It was part of CPI Maoist. They spent I think 3-4 years in jail. They came out, and then they started discussing whether the strategies they were using were optimal, and they decided to form a political party. So they had come to Delhi to Election Commission to seek recognition,
To register themselves.
to register themselves. So this is how this whole movement works. But why it gains support in areas like tribal areas or other areas? Because there is an acute sense of injustice and alienation in these areas, especially tribal areas. And I would take you 50 years back or 65 years back to a discussion, very interesting discussion, which took place in Delhi between 5 tribal intellectual leaders and 5 tallest leaders of free India. Jawaharlal Nehru, Maulana Azad, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, Sarojini Naidu, wherever Alvin was in attendance. And this discussion is very educative, and I think all political parties need to go through Kumarappa papers, which are available there.
J.C. Kumarappa.
J.C. Kumarappa. Because what does it tell us? These tribal intellectuals were telling our national leaders that this nation doesn't belong to us. And you will have to convince us, you will have to persuade us, tribals, that this nation actually belongs to us. And this is a very interesting discussion. And this
happened 65 years ago.
65 years
and
back.
even today that sense of alienation, Ajit Sahi,
It persists.
continues among the tribals.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely. I think just listening to all the panelists here, I'm reminded of something that Albert Einstein said. He said, you cannot solve a problem from the same level of consciousness that created it. So automatically it means that you need to go to a different level of consciousness. If you remember, in the 1980s, we had this huge Mizoram problem which was burning like hell, and then Rajiv Gandhi pulled something, a rabbit out of the hat, and of course it was messy, it was troublesome, but at least what he got going was the Mizo Accord, which the results of which we see today. Nothing is perfect, and I don't hold a brief for Rajiv Gandhi or the Congress party. What I'm trying to say is that we need to step out.
The peace has held for 20 years.
The peace has held. We need to step out of it. We need to step out of our egos of, rassi jal gayi, athar nahi tooti, how the state agencies see it. See, the job of the state agencies is to keep rearming themselves with weapons, with powers. It doesn't help. You cannot be led by the state agencies. You cannot be led by think tanks. You have to be led by politics on the ground. Now, language is a very important issue here. You say, Mr. Chari used the word dynamic. The state does not have a dynamic solution. We keep using the term infested, Maoist infested areas. Now, what does this indicate? It indicates what Apoorvanand just said, what Warrior Alvin's meeting, what J.C. Kumarappa paper said, that you are essentially telling us this country doesn't belong to us. You call me a Maoist, and you call me, I'm not me, but I'm saying from their perspective, you call me a Maoist and you say I'm infesting my own land. It doesn't work like that. You have to be led by the politics. You have to go down to the people and you have to withdraw. I think there is a huge trust deficit in the state. Okay. It doesn't help saying that people have picked up the gun and they are pecuniary people, they are mercenaries. Of course they would be that way. Nothing is perfect. There are bad eggs, there are rotten eggs in the government, in the state, in everything.
In all political parties.
In all political parties, in all business establishments.
Harsh, so it's very interesting from what we have been hearing from all the panelists here and you earlier also. So, the the language itself, there is some shortcoming in the language itself, in the way it's approached, in the way the state approaches this problem? The idiom and the language used itself, there is a problem there?
Absolutely. No, from the very start, we look at it as a security problem, as a law and order problem, as a threat to the nation. We forget that these constitute the nation in very substantial numbers. I've spent the first 15 years of my adult life working in many of these areas which are affected by Maoist violence. And you cannot overemphasize the degree to which these places have been devastated by the outsider, by the moneylender coming in, by the enormous tribal land alienation. People have lost whatever land, whatever control over their forests, their way of life. We've just run savagely over all of it. And I don't think there's any conception, and now with the big companies coming in and our impatience to get the minerals out, to go into this rapid pace of economic growth, how can we make people partners? I mean, I'll just give you one brief example. I went to Raigad. Raigad was where I was collector 20 years ago. And its misfortune is that the tribal people there sit over some of the best coal stretches that we have. Going back after 20 years, you find the place devastated. You find how every law in the land has been set aside where large private companies, whatever the political party, has facilitated them to gain control, where forests have been destroyed, tribal people have been pauperized, and we're not having a debate. We have no alternative conception of development which is gentle, which is caring, which is inclusive. Of course development is required. Of course we need industrialization. But can we do it in a way that doesn't pauperize our people?
Okay. Nilotpal, it was during your party's regime, the left front regime in West Bengal, that we saw the Naxal movement having completely brought under control. But now it is again raising its head in your state, in Bengal. What happened at that time which brought it under control, and why is it raising its head again now?
See, if you give me a little time, I will just run you through the background of this Maoist.
Quickly.
Yeah, sure. Now, as you know, that Naxal movement itself was born in Naxalbari in North Bengal. That was sometime during the late 60s as an offshoot of the then CPIM. And it was a split on the basis of ideological lines. But then the movement degenerated really, and as a result of that, a large part of the ranks, they became unconscious victims of the ruling class politics. But after 1977, and when we had taken up agrarian reforms in a big way, they got isolated from the people, and they also split into myriad groups. Now this problem restarted with the merger of the Communist Unity and the People's War Group in 2004. Now I will distinguish one thing, that while development is definitely an issue, it will be, I think, simplistic to reduce it to just a development question, because there have been studies in Bengal part of this Maoist activity, that there are groups which are, there are blocks which are more backward, but where Maoists have not been that strong, and where development has been relatively more, but Maoist activity has been more. I think that is because of the nature of the political formation itself. Now in Bengal, I can tell you from experience that Maoists thrived in those areas where traditionally the anti-left front or anti-left forces were a sizable strength. Now I think one of the major dangers of the Maoist movement is this, that they display a certain degree of political opportunism in aligning with major ruling class parties, parties like Congress or TDP in Andhra Pradesh or with TMC in Bengal. I think some of us liberals who think that, correctly think that this has a political ideological dimension, overlooks this political opportunism on the part of the Maoists.
Okay, Nilotpal, you have made a point.
See this
Nilotpal, you have made a
military work. So
Nilotpal, you have made an important.
their presence in those areas are not merely
Nilotpal,
because
you
of
have
the
made an
fact that they
important
want
point.
to mobilize the people,
Okay.
but they are fighting war against the state.
Okay, Apoorvanand, how do you react to what Nilotpal says? That there is political opportunism which is also seen among the Maoists, who are now seen, whenever they feel comfortable, they'll go and align themselves with certain political forces. This kind of political opportunism is very evident.
Let me play devil's advocate. Why call it political opportunism? Why don't call it tactics? CPM has been aligning with different parties at different points of time. So it's also how do you increase your strength? How do you expand your base? How do you gain some reprieve? So it's a tactical thing. It's part of strategy. I'm speaking on their behalf. I'm playing devil's advocate. So let's not call it political opportunism. It's part of tactics. But let me go back to what it is. It is really a question of ideology. There is a strong stream in left politics which believes that only through armed struggle can you defeat this state. So this stream has not died out.
This stream has not died out, and the problem is.
Can I respond briefly?
Very quickly, yes.
Yeah, I think it is political opportunism because the Maoists are not a really mass-based movement.
They are not a mainstream.
They are saying this because if you see the Maoist activities, they do
Let's
not
wait
have.
for another month. Let's see how much base CPM has.
They are not interested in mobilizing the people to bring about a change.
And the CPM sat on the same side with the BJP to support VP Singh's government.
Yes.
No, never. I'm sorry.
All movements.
Yes.
All movements tend to degenerate at some stage or the other,
including yours.
So we should not forget, and all movements, if in their eagerness to have continuity
and expand the base.
Not only continuity, I would rather put it as relevance. In order to have relevance. Now, in Nilotpal Das language, the relevance is more social, political, economic. In his opponent's language, it would be opportunism. So the question is, ultimately it is relevance. So in order to establish a relevance, they change their tactics and everything. But Chairman Mao's own movement has totally degenerated, and the China today is not the China of Chairman Mao.
Absolutely.
So, but unfortunately, we have a state which is still looking at these people as if they are the true progenitors of Chairman Mao. They are not.
Okay.
And they have no compunction in all these things.
Absolutely.
They
You have raised and provoked. I'm sure that my two friends here would like to react. But before that, I think we need to go into a very short break. We'll take a short break. We'll come back and continue the discussion. It's a very interesting discussion. Please keep watching.